this Mecha Manga just came out, and even though I'm not a big fan of mecha, it's kind of fire. Recently, we've been getting a lot of very unusual series. Dan, Chainsaw Man, Sakamoto Days, each of these feels so different and I love it. But for some reason, there aren't really any new mecha series out there. Until Shonen Jump finally decided to release a mecha manga. And to be honest, in the beginning I didn't really care cause I don't like mecha anyway. Yeah, I know. But then I noticed that a lot of people actually loved this new manga. So I decided to check it out. And I am so happy I did because I haven't had this much fun in a very long time. This is Hero Organization, and there are a lot of things that it does really well. But today, I'm gonna show you the things that it absolutely nails. Okay, listen. The first chapters of this manga are so good that I've just been binging it for hours and I had to go get my eye drops, okay? Imagine you live in a world where climate change is hitting super hard, we're running out of resources, and there are way too many people on Earth. Basically, we're donezo. So what do? Easy. We build these massive spaceships and we go to space. Everything's good, we're chilling, we're traveling the galaxy. Oh wait, what's that? Wait, I think it's... Oh yeah, it's a massive space dragon that eats humans. Perfect. But it's okay, we're fine because luckily we have a mecha called the Aegis. Armor for intergalactic guardian and interstellar survival. What does that even mean? And one of the most talented mech pilots of all time is this 10-year-old prodigy called Leo. This boy is humanity's hope. He just won a VR piloting championship. He is blessed with overflowing talent. He is the perfect main character. Except, that he's not. This is Leo's dad, Ryu. He always wanted to be a pilot, but instead he had to take care of his son. Problem is, he can't really do that because he almost makes no money. And you know what? That's fine because they have the most wholesome relationship. Like, I'm not joking. Get yourself someone who will love you like Ryu. One day, something impossible happens. The Hero Organization wants Ryu to become a mech pilot even though he's like the most average dude ever. This is his opportunity to finally make some really good money, follow his dreams, and most importantly, make his son proud. And that's cool. So he goes to space. In the beginning, it's great, but later, it becomes the hardest job ever. And that's when Ryu realizes he has to leave. But while he's waiting for a ship to take him home, he gets called on an urgent mission. He fights this huge star beast, and even though it's super powerful, he wins. But right as he's about to go back home, his captain ends his life. And we discover that he was set up by the Hero Organization from the very beginning. 8 years later, Leo becomes a pilot and he knows the truth. So now his objective is very simple: become the best pilot in the organization and destroy it. Listen, if Shonen Jump was a fisherman, I would be the dumbest freaking fish on the entire planet. Because every single time they just bait me with these first couple of chapters of a new manga, and every single time I'm hooked for like 300 more chapters. And to be honest, I've rarely felt this as much as with the first few chapters of Hero Organization. This story starts with one thing that it completely flips it. Like, I'm not joking, even the first chapter ends with the sentence, "This is the story of an ordinary man who becomes a hero." They really want you to think this guy is going to be the main character, and I appreciate that because it just surprised me. And obviously now you know the big twist, but trust me, you really don't need to worry about that because after the twist, Hero Organization just gets better and better. For example, the next thing that this manga nails is the mechs. So, Leo joins the academy to become a mech pilot, which means that we get to see a bunch of mechs. You know what? I actually made a list. Okay, let's start with the not super important ones. First, there's this mech that looks like a bee, and listen, I have no idea how it works or why a mech has wings, but it looks kind of sick. And then we have these wolf-headed mechs from a group called Gun Dogs, but yeah, I don't think they actually do anything differently apart from having these wolf heads. But then we have the more important mechs. For example, the main mecha of this series is called Zulab, and it's also the mech Ryu used to build in his factory. And personally, I think it looks kind of awesome. Oh, and they also have the mini versions of them, which is just the cutest thing ever. And then they also have Siegfried and Perseus, and again, I'm not really sure what they do, but they're absolutely overpowered and they look amazing. And apparently, you can even have custom mechs, which means that there's probably gonna be a lot of them. And I'm pretty sure that for the moment, that's it. I genuinely think that one of the coolest parts of any mecha series is discovering a bunch of new mechs. And okay, To be honest, I really hope that the author is going to create a lot more of them. So far, I am actually really happy with what we got. I'm 50 chapters in, and Hero Organization has a couple of awesome mechs. And the thing I didn't understand in the beginning is, why did the author make the mechs look like these medieval knights? I mean, it is kind of random until you realize it actually makes total sense. Check this out. So, most of the time, the mechs actually use a bunch of long-range weapons. Like, at some point, Leo is about to fight and he goes into this room where there's just a ton of them. And that's cool, but the truth is there are also a bunch of close-range weapons. There's this scene where Ryu smashes the head of a star beast from above with a freaking mace. I'm sorry, but can you imagine someone hitting you with that thing? And you know that beam mecha I showed you before? One of the pilots actually uses a lance with it, and look what it does. Someone else uses these fangs that almost kind of remind me of the Wolverine fangs, just that there's one of them instead of 3. Siegfried is the first mecha we see in the entire series, and it has a huge sword and a huge shield. What I'm trying to say is that every mecha has some kind of close-range weapon. The author didn't just do this because they thought it would be cool. The mechs look like knights because they actually fight like knights. I've also heard some people say that they don't really like the mech design, but personally, I love this fusion between medieval knights and modern robots. So far, every single one of them has a lot of detail. And honestly, most of the mecha series I've seen have these regular futuristic looking robots, which there's nothing wrong with that, but when there's something a little bit different out there, I think that's really awesome. And it also opens up so many possibilities for cool combinations. It makes the fights really fun because every character has their own fighting style. Some pilots prefer getting close with melee weapons, others stay back and snipe from a distance. There's something for everyone. Even though, yeah, personally my favorite part is by far when characters use melee weapons. But the thing that surprised me even more is that this manga also explains how the mechs actually work. I don't know if you've ever played this game called Armored Core, but this manga kind of reminds me about it. Okay, basically, think of Hero Organization as a video game where you have to customize and manage your mech. First, they all use something called life energy. The story doesn't really explain what this is, but I guess it's maybe kind of your actual energy, like when you run, or maybe it's the amount of life you have to live. So like maybe every time you use a mech, you're gonna have one less day to live because it just pumps out so much energy out of you, or something like that. And the thing is, some of the weapons even become more powerful based on your life energy, so it's actually kind of a big deal. I mean, there is literally a scene where Ryu shoots this massive laser because he's feeling really angry. So I think that life energy would kind of be your main resource in a video game. Then the mechs also read your brainwaves, which is actually super basic. If you're controlling it and you turn your head, the mech moves its head. If you move your arm, the mech moves its arm. That means that the person inside the mech actually needs to be pretty healthy and strong. I mean, to be honest, I was super confused when the pilots were exercising even though they're literally piloting a robot, but now it actually makes sense. And finally, every mech has stabilizers, and the more they get damaged, the more the mech starts kind of randomly moving around, which is called the dizzy state. And if that happens, you're pretty much donezo. And listen, I totally get it. I'm sure this is not the most interesting thing for everyone. Like, I'm sure that a lot of people would just want to see mechs blow stuff up. I mean, I want that. But I think that it's also super cool that if you want to understand exactly how the mechs work, you can. The author isn't just throwing cool robots at us. They're trying to create something that actually makes sense. And I feel like that's something a lot of mecha series wouldn't really bother doing. So for the moment, I think that the mechs in Hero Organization are incredible. But remember, the mechs are there for one thing, and that's to fight. And I'm saying this right now, the fights in Hero Organization are some of the best freaking fights I've seen in a very long time. Okay, so remember how in the beginning the Hero Organization wanted Ryu to be a pilot? Well, there's actually a scene where you see him taking the entrance exam, which basically means that he has to destroy a bunch of these massive fighting drones. At some point during the fight, he dodges a bunch of bullets, right? And I know, it seems like a super basic panel, but if you look a little closer, there's actually a lot of stuff going on. Can you see the circles that show you how far he's dodging and all these lines that show you where the bullets are going and also the impact on the floor? Those are all details, for sure, but they make the action really clear and you know exactly what's happening. And if you turn the page, there's even a panel where you see one of the drones actually getting him, and you can really tell how powerful the shot is just by looking at the panel. Okay, I'm definitely picking and choosing what panels I want to show you, for sure. But just to prove that everything flows super well, here's the fight in like 10 seconds. Ryu starts the fight. He runs towards the drones. Bam, the drones shoot him. But he dodges like a champ. Bam, there's a big drone. And the small drones are really fast. He gets an opportunity to shoot. This bullet did nothing. Oh no. Oh no. Oh sh**. Ryu, get up. Your weapon uses the power of friendship. Dude, what are you saying? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Oh my god! I have genuinely read so many manga where I had to stop during a fight because the action just didn't make sense to me. Like, there was so much happening at the same time. And that is one of the most annoying things ever. But in Hero Organization, you never have to look at a panel for a long time because the author makes the fights clear and every panel flows into the next one. This might seem like a small thing, but trust me, it's actually really satisfying and it makes the fights super fun. But on top of that, the fights even have some cool strategy. There's this really cool scene where Leo fights one of the captains. And before the fight, he basically gets to choose whatever weapon he wants to use. And this man uses every single weapon he can find. Like, look at his mech. It looks insane. How's he even walking with this thing? I don't... But then, do you know what the captain does? So this is the panel where Leo is choosing the weapons for the fight, and there's this random mech that is just moving stuff around in the background. That's the mech she uses against him, and the insane part is it's a freaking construction mech. It's not even supposed to fight. And on top of that, she takes the worst weapons ever, and she still absolutely annihilates him. Can you imagine how boring it would be if someone automatically won a fight because they just have a better mech than someone else? In Hero Organization, it's not about who has the best mech, it's about who's the best pilot. And that makes the fight super fun because you actually have no idea who's going to win. So yeah, the fights have good choreography, they have good strategy, and you know what else? They also look freaking amazing! Okay, like in the first few pages of the entire series, there's a fight that only lasts a couple of pages. But if you take just a few seconds to look at it, there are actually so many details. The shockwaves around the weapon, the bullets falling out of the gun while it's firing, the impact of the shots on the Star Beast. And the whole thing ends with this panel where you see the mech slash the beast like a million times. And then you see it explode, and again, there are so many particles and details. So far, I would say that those are my two favorite panels. First, there's the one from before where Ryu slashes a Star Beast from above. But the thing that I absolutely love is that the author made it super symmetrical. I swear, this is so satisfying to look at. And then there's this moment where Ryu shoots down a combat drone with his amplified rifle. And I know I already sort of briefly showed it before, but I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate how beautiful it is. The thing that makes all of this even cooler is when you put these two panels next to each other. The fights just look completely different depending on the weapon someone uses. And dude, I could genuinely show you cool fighting panels for a very long time because there are a lot of them in this manga. I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but I usually go through manga fights really quickly because I just want to continue reading the story. But with Hero Organization, I just had to stop to look at these gorgeous panels. I mean, come on. I think that the person drawing this is truly a master. And I know that good choreography and good strategy is great, but the fact that it looks so good is just the icing on the cake, and it makes the fight so much more fun to watch. And you know what? It's not just the fights. The art in this manga is generally really good. First of all, the environments look awesome. There's this moment where Ryu and Leo are walking home, and oh my goodness, can you see the city in the background? Look at all the buildings and the cars. I mean, this is just an insane amount of detail. Oh, and in the same chapter, there's this panel with a spaceship leaving Earth, and it just looks beautiful. Again. Okay, here's something that I actually think is super underrated. The inside of the mech is just as detailed as the outside. I'm sorry, I think that's super cool. The author put so much effort into the environments, like I swear, they didn't need to go so hard. And the character art is also pretty good. This is when Ryu is shouting at Leo because he refuses to eat his peas. This is when Leo's aunt is crying because he leaves for the academy. And this is when Leo says he'll get revenge on the organization. I think that these panels genuinely prove that the author is capable of showing a bunch of different emotions. And even though this is a shonen about big robots fighting big space worms, I honestly think that the art style is generally pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever, but I would definitely not say it's bad. There are certain things that the author draws beautifully, like the mechs and the environments, and some things that I personally think they can improve, like the character. And you know what? That's completely fine, because we're not even 20 chapters in. There is so much time to improve. When you look at the evolution of manga authors and their drawing, usually the longer the manga goes on, the better they get. Let's look at stuff like Naruto or One Piece or Bleach. And I genuinely think that Hero Organization already has a really good starting point. So yeah, the art is great, but I think there's one thing that makes Hero Organization really special. I mean, for me personally, that is the reason you should read it. It's the world building. The twist in the beginning is one thing, but after that twist, Leo has to find everything he can about the organization, and that's where the fun actually starts. This organization is constantly recruiting civilians, even though they'll probably perish in combat. They keep lowering the training time for the pilots, even though they aren't ready, which means they'll also probably perish in combat. The guy who killed Ryu becomes Leo's mentor, but Leo doesn't even know he's the one who did it. I mean, in general, there's just so much to discover. Different factions, different pilot squads, different star beasts, different pieces of technology. The more you learn, the more you want to learn. Like, I'm reading this and I'm genuinely annoyed that there aren't more chapters out right now. There is so much mystery in this story, and that's really, really fun to read. You keep getting these little pieces of the puzzle, but it's never enough to actually put the puzzle together. I love that because it's not just another story about cool robots fighting monsters. The author created this incredibly complex world where every new revelation makes you want to know more about everything, about what's going on. And to me, that is what makes Hero Organization worth reading. And even though I am genuinely not a big fan of mecha series, I think that this manga might get me into them, to be honest. It's an absolute banger, and I'm so happy that Shonen Jump finally decided to go for it. Oh, wait, I can feel something a bit weird in my back. Wait, what is that? Shonen Jump fishing hook? Oh, come on!